debate the amendment RTI. I think it's been postponed. But you are the only one of the few MPs who's actually opposing it, Jay. What makes you take on your colleagues? What makes you so brave?
I think first of all we must recognize that we in the political class seem to be out of sync with the public mood, and it is ironic that we complain about the courts stepping in, but the courts seem to be more in tune with what people are asking for today, which is higher standards of transparency and ethics in public life. Now regarding the RTI, you could argue both ways. There are countries that do have political parties in RTI, like Nepal, and there are many countries that don't have, such as UK and US. But the point is, we are not providing a credible alternative. We are simply trying to roll the clock back to what it was before, and I don't think that's acceptable anymore. I think also we are doing it in a big hurry. It should go to committee where it can be discussed thoroughly, where the public can also participate and make suggestions, and that is the way that it should be handled.
So Jay, basically, are you are against the fact that, or you are for the fact that political parties' accounts should be made open to the public, first of all?
Well, as far as it concerns financial dealings of political parties, they are already supposed to be disclosed to the Election Commission.
Individuals, but not...
You know, the Election Commission doesn't seem to have any teeth, because in a... Yes, parties. Yes, I agree that parties' political financial dealings must be transparent. And you know, the government has argued in a particular case in court that even if candidates and parties make false submissions to the Election Commission,
right,
the Commission cannot do anything about it. Now that needs to be changed. We need to strengthen that, and that is, I think, where we can come about offering a credible alternative.
So why not discuss all this in Parliament when the amendments are going on? All this can come. Why are you so keen for it to go to a standing committee?
Because most bills go through a standing committee, and it seems a little unusual that when it concerns our MPs and MLAs' own self-interest, we seem to be able to get together very quickly and pass things very quickly. Whereas most bills, you know, the bills that have recently been passed have spent several years or at least a few weeks or few months in committee where details can be taken up. No matter how much discussion you have on the floor of a parliament, there are very limited time available to individual speakers. So I think it is important, because also another thing that can happen, the public cannot participate in Parliament, but they can participate in a committee, because the committee, all committees have public hearings. So activists and members of the public who are interested can come and make their submissions. And I think that is a very crucial part of democracy, which we should not short circuit.
So how has your stand been taken by your colleagues? Are you a very unpopular figure in Parliament today?
Actually, you'd be surprised at how many MPs are in favor of this, but are some are actually openly speaking out. Let me point out some names. My colleagues, the BJD has decided to, well, no, the BJD is taking this as an official stand, so all my colleagues in the party. But beyond my party also, there are people like Dr. Ajay Kumar, MP from Jamshedpur, Mr. Dinesh Trivedi from Bengal, and others are speaking up. And there are many members who are held back by their party decision or the party whip, but individually support this and are willing to at least speak up for it, if not quite vote for it.
That's true, because we had Milind Deora, who actually moved that debate on RTI, and he was speaking to us a little while ago, and his point was that don't tamper with the RTI Act. I mean, he's taking a very interesting stand. He's opposing the fact that political parties should come under RTI, but he's saying let that debate be fought in the courts and not be fought in Parliament. Do not change the Act. The Act is the holy grail. Do you agree with that? Should this be taken to the courts instead?
Well, I think for a member of Parliament to say that somebody should take it to the court means that we are ceding ground. This is really a legislative issue, and we should not be afraid to deal with it. Our problem is that I think we want to take our hands off it and let the courts take a decision. But when the court's decision suits us, it's fine. If it doesn't suit us, then we try to amend the law. I don't think that's a good thing. That is a receding of politics, which is not good for democracy. If we disagree with it, let us argue it out in Parliament and let us change the law accordingly.
Okay, since we don't have a political person here, I'm going to be the devil's advocate, Jay, and give you the arguments your colleagues have put forward. Interestingly, the left, they are saying by opening up political parties to RTI would actually infringe on their transparency. They don't want to, say why a certain person has been given a ticket. That should not be made public. So are you ready to give in some ground and say, okay, this is what should be made public, say funding, and some things should not be made public? Or you're okay for everything to be made public?
No, clearly funding has to be mandatorily made public. We can't be a democracy if the funding of political parties remains a murky secret. Now, regarding other aspects of what should be or should not be public, I think there is room for discussion. Because as I told you earlier, many democracies have different approaches on this, and we can certainly take a different approach. Now, some of the advocates of RTI say that Section 8 of the RTI already takes care of this, but I don't think so. I think the RTI Act needs to be looked at. But clearly there is no argument on the issue of the financial accounts of political parties. And I don't know why we should completely en masse remove political parties from RTI. As long as we don't offer another credible alternative, there is no harm in at least the financial accounts of political parties being under RTI.
But again, to quote some of your colleagues, their argument is that since political parties don't get funding from the public, they're not a public authority in that sense, why should their funding be made public?
I think it's a bizarre argument in the world's largest democracy to say that political parties are not public. This is like the BCCI claiming that it is a private cooperative of some sort, and not responsible. It represents India in cricket, but yet it's not public. And also let me point out, on other matters, we in Parliament have passed bills saying that we are subject to being treated as public entities. For example, the Lokpal bill. In that instance, we are okay with politicians and public parties being treated as public figures. I think it's just bizarre to say that we are not public. And listen, you talked about the process by which candidates get tickets. Most democracies in the world have primaries, which means they are a public process. There is nothing private about it. So even that you could argue whether giving a ticket to a candidate should be a private decision or a public decision. But yes, I agree that there is room for certain things. For example, certain competitive strategies or tactics that a party might be discussing internally for coming elections ought not to be public, because it will compromise their strength in the elections. So we ought to have a debate about these things. But on certain issues like funding, I don't think there ought to be any debate at all. Or if there has to be, it has to go through the proper process in the standing committee.
I'm going to take the debate a little away. For instance, talking about transparencies and selecting candidates. Today, Rahul Gandhi is, has, I believe, said one of your colleagues from the Congress. He is saying that he set up a 15-page form fill before applying for a ticket. Now, this is being met with a lot of ridicule. Of course, it's all off the record because, the position he holds in the Congress. But are political parties ready for this kind of measures? This kind of, it's a sort of transparency, isn't it? Or a cooperative accountability. You fill in a form, give in your goals and achievements. It's a corporate outlook. But political parties aren't ready for it. Do you think it's a good idea, first of all?
I can't comment on what form the Congress is coming out with or what Shri Rahul Gandhi is doing, because I'm not familiar with it.
All right.
But
as a
I
rule
can tell you that in other democracies, the process of candidates, the process for selecting candidates means they have to give out a lot of personal information so that the party doesn't get embarrassed later on. This happens in other democracies. You may not have a form for it, but certainly you can have ways and means of collecting that information, so that a potential candidate should not have the ability to hold back his or her criminal records.
Right.
And that is fortunately no longer the case in India. Now you are required to divulge that record. So certain other records, I think, being divulged is not a problem. And if India's political parties are not ready today, I can tell you the public is definitely ready for it. And if we are not ready today, we will be forced to be made ready in the coming years.
Well, it's reassuring to hear a voice of the public from one of our own MPs. But another thing also, Jay Panda, I know you have a very strong economic background. You were in the private sector till a while ago when you joined the BJD. Can you give your take on the economy, and what would you do, the measures you would suggest to actually improve the situation current?
I think the problem is a lot of water has flown under the river, through the river now. The government has lost its political capital, its credibility, due to misgovernance for many, many years. Even if it comes up with a logical answer today, it is not being treated with any credibility because it has wasted its credibility. And the fact is, on the one hand, the government keeps talking about fiscal conservatism, keeping the current account deficit in control. On the other hand, it keeps on announcing huge expenditure and openly saying that we don't know where the money is going to come for it, but let's deal with it as it comes along. You can't say contradictory things and hope that the economy will somehow be all right. You have to give a rational, consistent answer.
But isn't it ironic that you have somebody who saved the situation in 91, who actually was, the man who led us into this liberalization area, and now his hands are being tied by, I mean, would you say by all these reformist measures, by Sonia Gandhi's welfare economy? Are you disappointed with the Prime Minister?
Well, look, if you say that the Prime Minister's hands are, if you say that the Prime Minister's hands are tied, then I have nothing to say. Because I think a Prime Minister at any point has the ability to stand up and say, look, let's not do certain things because it is going to damage the country. And if the Prime Minister takes a stand that his hands are tied, I have no comment.
No, but I mean, he hasn't obviously taken that public stand. But we have the image of a helpless Prime Minister. Would you say this is a Prime Minister whose hands are not tied, for instance?
Look, I think you've just said something. If the Prime Minister has the image of a helpless Prime Minister, I think that says something sad about our country. I think it says something sad about the state of our politics today, because the Prime Minister is the head of government. He's the highest constitutional authority of the world's largest democracy. And there's really, beyond that, there's nothing else I have to add.
Okay, but coming back to your solution, you gave us one stop announcing such huge welfare schemes before finding the money to implement it. I think that's what you said. What are the other schemes that the government can do to stop this falling rupee? What, in your view, as a layman, as an economist, as someone with your background?
Well, as I said, today the government has lost its credibility. Even when it starts discussing what would normally be logical, reasonable things, it doesn't get support because people simply don't believe its intentions. Because even today, the government is saying one thing and doing another thing. It's not as if that's in the past. I just gave you the example of talking about maintaining the deficit and yet going ahead and spending more. So you cannot, on the one hand, be frittering away your credibility, and on the other hand, be seeking answers, because those answers have no relevance. Nobody is going to believe you. But it has had many years. During these years, it could have reformed. For example, take a look at what this government did in the last 4 weeks. It has relaxed certain FDI norms, because the hope is that with FDI coming into these sectors, it will balance the run on the rupee.
Right.
But these particular FDI proposals were on the table for many, many years, and it doesn't require parliamentary approval. It was just a stroke of a pen, which could have been applied several years ago. They just didn't do it. And it's not that they didn't know better. This government has a lot of very bright economists running it, not just the Prime Minister but others. They just didn't do it. Now, it's a little bit too too late.
Is it also this huge rush for the elections? 8 months are left.
I think we require...
Sorry, carry on.
Well, if you ask a lot of people, if you ask a lot of people, for example, the stock market has crashed, the rupee has crashed.
Right.
If you ask people who are involved in those sectors, for a year now, they have been praying for early elections so that this government would be put out of its misery and the country would be put out of its misery. But the reality is that unless there is a fresh government with real credibility, it will be difficult to even implement logical steps.
And I mean, you are a person who actually goes out and you also interact with a lot of foreign investors. You've been going to Stanford and meeting people there also. What is the feedback of India at this point in time as an investment destination?
Yeah, I think you know better than I do. I think all your viewers know better what the image of India is today.
We like to hear from someone who's been there and has to face that.
2 years ago, India had Now, India had reinvented itself over a period of 15 years, but in the course of last few years, we have completely damaged our reputation as a country that is run by responsible people. The image of India, you talked about academia, but it's not just academia, it's global economies. They have no shortage of places to go to for an investors whom we are apparently seeking, but yet also snubbing at the same time. They have many other places to go to, and we are suffering as a result of that. It is going to take a lot of hard work. It's going to take, it won't be an overnight recovery. It's going to take several years to again repair the damage that has happened to the state, to the country's image.
Well, we have an example in your own state, the flip-flop on POSCO. How has that affected investment coming to your state?
Well, fortunately, the POSCO land acquisition has now been completed and it is now going ahead, although there has been delay. And yes, we have had setbacks on some other projects, big projects. But what I think a lot of the national media missed out, which the local media there did not, is that apart from 2 or 3 very large flagship projects which have had land acquisition issues, same as most other places in the country, lots of other medium-sized and small projects have actually already been implemented, which is why even today, Odisha's growth rate for the last 10 years has been double. Today it is double of the national growth rate, and it's doing very well economically compared to the Indian average. So, you may have 1 or 2 big setbacks, but you have many others to compensate for it.
Okay, one last question, Jack. Talking about the future is, the BJD had aligned with the BJP and then moved away. But we saw on issue based, like for instance, Naveen Patnaik and Narendra Modi did have some sort of alliance on this national terror outfit that the Congress has been trying to set up. Do you see Naveen Patnaik and Narendra Modi coming together at any point? Or BJD supporting a BJP government?
Actually, there has... See, there is nothing further I can add after the founder and the president of the party, Shri Naveen Patnaik, has clarified that we are equidistant from the Congress and the BJP. Now, you talked about having a similar viewpoint.
Right.
Now, our viewpoint, the BJD's viewpoint, is based on certain principles, based on the national interest, based on our state interest, and based on the federal principles that have governed this country for 65 years. Now, if somebody else also happens to, on some issues, take the same viewpoint, I mean, we are not going to berate them for it. That's fine.
But as a rule, you're not ready to support a BJP government. I'm asking you to reiterate.
Well, the president of the party has clarified. The president of the party has clarified that we are equidistant from both the BJP and the Congress.
Thanks so much for talking to us, Panda, and all the best with your crusade against these RTI amendments. That's all for now. Now it's over to Frank for some more news. Thank you.
Well, let's bring you up to date with some breaking news that is just coming in. Of course, cell-style godman Asaram Bapu has been produced in court. Asaram is taken to special court. His police custody will end today. There you have it. Of course, this is some breaking news that is just coming in. Cell-style godman Asaram has been taken to court, to a special court, in fact, and his custody, let's not forget, will end today. It remains to be seen whether the court will extend his custody, his police custody, or will it be judicial custody for Asaram. Of course, that will be known in just a short while from now. Jodhpur police is seeking 2 more days to interrogate Asaram, allegedly for raping a minor. Well, there you have it. Of course, police remand of Asaram ends today, but the police is seeking 2 more days' time from the court to interrogate Asaram. Asaram was taken to the alleged scene of the crime earlier, of course, and there were no details divulged from that, of course, but now it is understood that Asaram has been taken to court. His police custody ends today. The police is seeking 2 more days of custody of Asaram so that they can question him, interrogate him, and bring out the truth. Well, NewsX's Vishal Baristo joins us for more right now. Well, Vishal, there you have it. The police there seeking for 2 more days of custody to interrogate Asaram, but he is now being produced in court. Take us through what's happening right now.
Well, I can see Asaram just standing before me, in presence of the magistrate of the special court, and unconfirmed reports are coming out that he has been sentenced to judicial custody, which means 14 days in jail. But Frank, we need to wait for some more time to get the official clarification on this, official version on this. But my sources are informing me that Asaram has been sent to 14 days of judicial custody. The court is jam-packed, and I'm just standing outside the window of the court, and I can see Asaram. He is very nervous-looking. Asaram, quite a different man, quite a different Asaram that we saw in there when he was arrested and when he was even brought to Jaipur. So unconfirmed reports are coming out that he's been sent to judicial custody. We need for some more time. He was brought in a riot control vehicle like an ordinary criminal. He was brought, and no special treatment for Asaram. And in the afternoon, the DCP of Jodhpur also confirmed that he is mentally and physically fit. So all the excuses that he has got a neurological problem, they have been put to rest, and doctors have confirmed that he is physically and mentally fit. Though the police are asking for an extension in the police custody, but our sources are telling, inside the courtroom are telling us that he has been sent to 14 days of judicial custody, about which we need to wait for a confirmation. We need to wait for some more time.
Well, if what you're saying is indeed the case, then certainly, Vishal, it is a blow to the police, because the police were seeking more time from the court to interrogate Asaram.
Well, in the afternoon, the DCP of Jodhpur did say that we have made a watertight case. In the last 10 days, we have collected all the evidences against Asaram, and we are quite sure that we would nail him down. But we need to wait for some more, Frank. Another few minutes and the picture would be clear. The reports are coming out that he has been given judicial custody. He has been sentenced to judicial custody, but we need an official confirmation. We need an official confirmation. We need an official confirmation. Sources are saying that he has been sent to judicial custody.
Certainly, of course, we're getting live visuals, or the latest visuals there from outside the court, and we can see there several people who have gathered outside the court premises, journalists and supporters of Asaram, they seem like, and several others too. Seems like a jam-packed court complex, and Asaram there wearing some traditional headgear and walking into the court premises. It seems like quite a frenzy there, of course. Vishal, take us through the scenes as they are taking place right now.
Judicial custody. He has been sentenced to judicial custody. Judicial custody. He has been sentenced to judicial custody. So Asaram goes to jail, Jodhpur Central Jail. This is the same jail where Salman Khan was in prison. This is the same jail where this godman who tainted the religious sentiments of the people who sexually assaulted a minor, he has now been sentenced to jail. So Asaram is behind bars. He is a criminal.
Well, certainly, of course, Asaram is behind bars, and it seems like it's quite a frenzy there and quite noisy as well. Take us through what's happening around you, Vishal.
Well, Frank, as I speak to you, Asaram is being rushed to Jodhpur Central Jail. This is the official confirmation coming out. Asaram is being taken to jail. It hardly took 10 minutes for the judge to announce judicial custody for Asaram.
Well, certainly, of course, in less than 10 minutes, the magistrate has pronounced that it's going to be judicial custody as far as Asaram is concerned. 14 days of judicial custody there for the cell-style godman. He will now be taken to the Jodhpur Central Jail and of course, kept there for 14 days. Now, clearly, of course, we've seen in the past as well, in the recent past, how the supporters of Asaram have come out and, in fact, attacked the media, attacked police personnel as well. What is the situation like right now in terms of security and the devotees as well of Asaram?
Frank, you can hear, you can see how these people, they are clapping. It is all rejoiced that the man, the doctor who committed that crime, that heinous crime on the minor, has been sent to jail. It's a victory of justice, people are saying, and it's a sigh of relief for all those who are waiting to see him behind bars.
And Vishal, what are the kind of security arrangements that have been put in place to ensure that there is no untoward incidents? Because we've seen that Asaram's supporters have been violent in the past.
Well, special arrangements have been made at the jail. There has been additional deployment of forces there at the jail, and he has been taken in the in the special task force vehicle. And Asaram has moved to jail. He is now on his way to jail. So Asaram is not a saint. He does not get those VIP facilities. He is now an ordinary criminal. He would be spending his time, and according to the judicial custody, 14 days is the time that he needs to spend in jail before he gets a bail.
All right, and Vishal, also, what are the options now ahead of Asaram? What can he? What is the next plan of action, and what can he do next?
Frank, can you repeat your question?
What are the options now ahead of Asaram? Of course, is it a possibility that he's going to approach a higher court? What are his options going forward?
Well, in the afternoon, we spoke to his lawyers. He has got a battery of lawyers, not only from Jodhpur but also from Delhi, and they were telling us that they would apply for bail on two various grounds. One of quashing the FIR that would be appealed in the Rajasthan High Court. The principal seat is Jodhpur, and then they would also apply for a regular bail, that is the bail for to save Asaram from going to jail. But his lawyers were here for the regular bail, and I don't think that he has been given the bail, and that is why Asaram has been sent to jail.
Well, certainly, of course, the bail seems to have been denied. We'll have to wait for a complete report and see on what grounds, of course, the bail itself was denied. Let's not forget, this is breaking news that is just coming in. Asaram, the cell-style godman, was taken to the court because his police custody was ending today. Just about 7 or 10 minutes ago, in fact, he was taken to the Jodhpur court, where the magistrate, in fact, has sent Asaram to 14 days of judicial custody. And Asaram is going to spend the next 14 days, of course, at the Jodhpur Central Jail. It remains to be seen what the next steps of Asaram and his lawyers are going to be. Right now, though, Asaram is being taken in a vehicle, in an armored vehicle, to the Jodhpur Central Jail. And it certainly looks like the police have left no stone unturned to ensure there is waterproof security there, watertight security rather, of course, to ensure that no untoward incident does take place. Vishal, of course, leading up to this, we've seen several protests taking place, several supporters coming in, attacking the media as well, and attacking the police personnel as well. So clearly this case needs to be handled very trickily, and also the police need to be very cautious while dealing with this entire matter.
Well, as you can see on your frame, there is a jubilation here at the court. The ordinary man, the common man, the Aam Aadmi is very happy that the tainted guru or spiritual leader is now in jail for the inhuman act. Remember, he has sexually assaulted a minor, and according to the FIR, there are very inhuman details of the girl, how she was sexually assaulted inside that dark room where the Baba was sitting there without any clothes on his body, and he forced oral sex on her. So all kind of details there in the FIR alleged by the victim. And today the court did not listen to any of the excuses, any of the defense by his battery of lawyers, and simply sent him to judicial custody, which means Asaram is in jail. This is the same jail where Salman Khan also spent some time, and now Asaram would also be in jail. As you can see, common man, the Aam Aadmi, they thronged this court in anticipation of jail, because in the afternoon, Jodhpur police had made it very clear that they have made a watertight case against Asaram. He cannot escape from the evidences collected by Jodhpur police in the last 10 days, I beg your pardon, and that is why they were very much confident. And as I was speaking to you, unconfirmed reports were coming in, and in hardly 5 minutes, it was confirmed that Asaram is now going to be spending his night and day in jail.
All right, Vishal Barista, I'm going to let you go for the time being, of course, so that you can go and get us all those latest reactions, of course, from outside the courthouse, and bring us up to date with the latest. Thank you so much for joining us with all those details. Flavia Agnes, woman activist, in fact, joins us on the phone line right now. Very good evening to you, Flavia. Of course, I'm sure you've already heard the news. 14 days judicial custody for Asaram there. How do you react to this?
As I had commented on your channel yesterday, the law must take its own course, and it's but natural that 14 days judicial custody is usually given in all such cases which are very grave in nature. So he cannot have any kind of privilege because he's called Asaram Bapu, and I think we should stop addressing him as Bapu, because Bapu has such a dignified title to it, and as somebody who is molested women and then doesn't deserve it. But that apart, I think it's a very good thing, because the public faith in the system is restored by this.
All
that
right.
is very important.
But do you see the law taking its own course as far as this particular case is concerned, or do you see some politicians getting involved somewhere down the line and subduing the matter completely?
See, so far the police have acted well, and the courts have acted well, and I think the stage for political influence is over, because now it is in the hands of the court and it is in the hands of the police.
Well,
Now,
initially, of course, Flavia,
I do not know, but otherwise, I don't see any such thing.
Let's not forget, initially, of course, the police were a little skeptical about arresting Asaram under the new anti-rape law that we have. Of course, Asaram could have been arrested immediately and arrested with immediate effect, but that was not done. He was given time, and even after being given time, he did not surrender. He did not go to the police for questioning, and then the police were forced, maybe also because of media pressure and pressure from the center as well.
I agree with that. I do that. I can see that happening. But I think the public and women's groups will keep up the pressure. And also I think the pressure from the central government will continue. And they are in public scrutiny. As you say, the media glare is too much. So this kind of negotiations and alliances between politicians and court, or politicians and police, I feel there's very little scope for that happening here. And I expect the media to be much more alert on this issue.
All right, Flavia, Agnes, thank you so much for joining us on the phone line and speaking to NewsX.
मतलब पुलिस कस्टडी नहीं मांगी थी, लेकिन कोर्ट ने, न्यायाधीश ने उनको 15 दिन के लिए डेट आगे दी है और जेसी में भेज दिया है. हाँ, 15 तारीख यानी डेट आगे दी है, जिसमें अब जब कभी भी उनकी अगली सुनवाई होगी वो 15 तारीख के आसपास पड़ेगी. वकील की तरफ से कोई बेल की एप्लीकेशन भी लगाई है? बिल्कुल लगाई थी, जिसको खारिज कर दिया गया. और पुलिस की तरफ से कोई और रिमांड की? नहीं, कोई रिमांड की उनकी मांग नहीं थी पुलिस की तरफ से, क्योंकि इनका इन्वेस्टिगेशन पूरा हो गया था पुलिस का. मतलब यानी जो भी उनको मौका मुआयना करना था, मेडिकल कराना था, वो बाकी सब चीजें हो चुका था. इसलिए पुलिस का अमित सक्सेना, एडवोकेट, राजस्थान हाई कोर्ट.
The public prosecutor there giving out his name and speaking exclusively to NewsX and talking to us about the details of the proceedings in the court. The court has sent Asaram to 14 days of judicial custody is what he said. Of course, he will be in custody till the 15th of September. So any hearing that has to take place will take place only after that, is how the public prosecutor in fact was explaining to NewsX as to what exactly is going to take place in the near future. Of course, his bail plea was rejected by the court is what he had to say, and the next hearing will be anytime after the 15th of September, after Asaram's judicial custody ends. 14 days judicial custody for Asaram for his alleged role in a sexual assault case against a minor. He's currently being taken to the Jodhpur Central Jail even as we speak right now, under tight security in an armored car. He's being ushered away to the Jodhpur Central Jail. Well, there you have it. Of course, jubilant voices were heard outside the Jodhpur jail as the magistrate in fact passed the order and sent Asaram to 14 days of judicial custody. There were jubilant cries there from the general public who were extremely happy with the order that was passed. That, of course, is Asaram there being quickly whisked away in a private vehicle. In fact, by the police personnel, he's being taken away to the Jodhpur Central Jail. There you can see tight security in place to ensure that no untoward incident takes place. That, of course, is the cell-style godman Asaram there, against whom sexual assault charges have been slapped. He is currently being taken to the Jodhpur Central Jail, where he is going to spend the next 14 days. Well, it remains to be seen, of course, how Asaram's battery of lawyers react to this particular judgment or this particular order that has been passed by the magistrate there in Jodhpur. Remains to be seen whether they will take the matter to a higher court and apply for bail. For the time being, of course, Asaram is definitely going to spend tonight, at least, in jail. Remains to be seen what the next course of action will be as far as Asaram's lawyers are concerned. But 14 days of judicial remand is what he's been given by the court there in Jodhpur, and he is currently being taken to the Jodhpur Central Jail even as we speak. Let's not forget famous Bollywood star, in fact Salman Khan too, has spent a few days there in the Jodhpur Central Jail. Asaram will now be treated as any other criminal on trial, in fact, and he will not be given any special privileges, of course, and he will be taken straight to the jail, be given jail food, and also put in a prison cell there at the Jodhpur Central Jail. Of course, several people came out and said that Asaram is physically unfit and he is unwell, and approached the police and said that he should not be taken to police remand. But those allegations were quickly thrown out of the window when medical tests were conducted, and it was understood that there was nothing wrong with Asaram. He was mentally and physically fit, is what the doctors stated. So his appeal that he was unwell, of course, did not stand, and the court had nothing of it and decided to send Asaram to 14 days of judicial custody. Let's now listen to what the public prosecutor, in fact, had to say about what happened in the court.
पुलिस ने कुछ नहीं कहा. पुलिस ने तो उनको मतलब पुलिस कस्टडी नहीं मांगी थी, लेकिन कोर्ट ने, न्यायाधीश ने उनको 15 दिन के लिए डेट आगे दी है और जेसी में भेज दिया है. हाँ, 15 तारीख यानी डेट आगे दी है, जिसमें अब जब कभी भी उनकी अगली सुनवाई होगी वो 15 तारीख के आसपास पड़ेगी. वकील की तरफ से कोई बेल की एप्लीकेशन भी लगाई है? बिल्कुल लगाई थी, जिसको खारिज कर दिया गया. और पुलिस की तरफ से कोई और रिमांड की? नहीं, कोई रिमांड की उनकी मांग नहीं थी पुलिस की तरफ से, क्योंकि इनका इन्वेस्टिगेशन पूरा हो गया था पुलिस का. मतलब यानी जो भी उनको मौका मुआयना करना था, मेडिकल कराना था, वो बाकी सब चीजें हो चुका था. इसलिए पुलिस का अमित सक्सेना, एडवोकेट, राजस्थान हाई कोर्ट.
Public prosecutor there speaking to NewsX and telling NewsX that in fact the police did